Hey everybody, it's Prep for Life, and today we're going to review something a little different today. You'll see this over my shoulder. This is called the Shiftpod Mini, and a really interesting shelter. So stick around, we're going to check it out today. I was unfamiliar with these until recently. I had a subscriber talk about going out to, I think it was Burning Man in the desert, and mentioned picking up a Shiftpod for the occasion. So it got me super interested. I wanted to see what these were all about. Shiftpod was kind enough to send over their Shiftpod Mini. This is a new model they recently designed based on feedback around the original Shiftpod. So as you can probably see just by looking at this thing, it is designed to hold out the heat. Designed for very high heat, very warm temperatures, and insulating whoever's inside to a more comfortable temperature. So for events in the desert, this thing is ideal. Let's take a look at some of our features. So this Mini is coming in at a more reasonable size than the full Shiftpod. At the apex is going to be 72 inches or 6 feet right there at the very top. I'm a 6'1", almost 6'2" individual. So for me, this is not a standing option, but it is going to feel roomy. You'll have plenty of room inside. You'll notice that you'll have a vent port here, both a window and a vent on all four corners. You're also going to have some additional venting up here. And what's nice is you can even face this into the wind if you've got a nice breeze blowing through, and that's going to help keep things even cooler down inside. Going down below, we have a vent here, or a port. You'll notice it's covered up against the elements, but this is for bringing in any electrical lines. Super cool to be able to pass that in for some electricity if you've got that coming in at your campsite. You'll notice a really nice and generous sod skirt coming around all the way around the Shiftpod here, as well as some grommets for staking this out. And then inside is going to be a floor. So there's an optional zip-in floor, again depending on the weight requirements, depending on if you want this to be an open floor design. That's totally up to you. Let's go ahead and take a look inside. What I love is this thing has a nice piece of Velcro right here, so I can go ahead and stick that open, and it just looks awesome with that exit sign. I think this thing is so spacey. It goes up super quick, and with the smaller design, you're looking at about 34 pounds, which is by no means a backpacking shelter, but it does provide some cool options. It's a one-person carry or two-person really easily. Definitely small enough to put in a truck bed or maybe the trunk of a car and just kind of have available as something to just pull out. There is an integrated bug net here. Oh, let me just come down here. We're going to zip open our bug net. And that's, you know, something that comes standard. I don't have to pay extra for that. It just comes with the Shiftpod. Let's go ahead and take a look inside. Now, I have yet to come in and really deck this thing out, but there's my flooring. You're going to see that all the way around, zipped in. There's all my windows open. There we go. And even my additional vents, as you can see, those are just Velcro. There's our little port coming in for the electricity. And let me back out a little bit here. I just want to show you. It definitely is going to feel roomy. You're going to have a lot of options. Let me deck this thing out and give you an idea of just what's possible in here. Okay, so we've decked it out a little bit. Let me go ahead and peek inside. Basically, just with kind of some of the basics here, guys. I've got a 6-foot air pad in the back over there to kind of show you what that looks like with standard sleeping equipment. Goes wall to wall, so it is potentially, for some of you super tall campers, potentially going to be a tighter fit. If you really needed to, you'd get more space going from corner to corner and just going diagonal that way. I do think that'd be a possibility. You just put your gear on the sides, but this was a cool little Ozark Trail just table that we picked up over at Walmart. And then lastly, of course, a camping chair. And you'll notice, I mean, things are almost getting tight, but to be honest, as small as the shelter is, I feel like this is quite a bit of room, and I can see myself just plopping down, you know, relaxing, reading a book with no problem on space. So as I sit in here and hang out, honestly, it does feel cooler than just being outside in the sun. And now, obviously, you might say, well, that's because you're in a shade. If you've spent any time in a tent, even if you're in a cooler environment, the solar radiation that comes into those tents can be brutal. Even if it's a cooler part of the year, it just beats in there and turns that thing into a sauna. This, so far, I have not noticed that at all. So I do believe that this reflective material is definitely doing its job and cooling things down. But from here, as you can see, I'm in my backyard. We can't really get a good comparison. So let's take it up into the mountains and see how we do in terms of that heat. So we're out here in the desert. It's a beautiful day, and we're going to try a little bit of a temperature test to see how much this actually does block the sun. So first of all, let's take a look over here. All right, I laid out a thermometer in the heat. Now, it's not this hot today, but that temperature gauge is reading right at about 100 degrees. Now, I know it's not that hot. Right now, I think we're set to be in like the 80s right now. So definitely it's hot being out in the sun, and we're feeling it, okay? Let's see how close we're getting to that in the tents. So first of all, let's try the Shiftpod. Okay, what I like about this is it's got some pretty easy to use straps. I can Velcro this over, and then it's got my bug net that I can just put to the side as well. So leg first, then duck in. So we're definitely looking at lower on the reading, whereas outside it's hitting about 100. It's about 10 degrees cooler in here. Not too bad. So let's seal this one up, and let's go over here. So I set up our Coleman two-person tent as a comparison. So we were 100 degrees outside, 90 degrees in the Shiftpod, and here we're just below the thermometer that was outside as well. So that reflective coating actually has made a difference. I've kept each of these tents zipped up, and we've given it about 15 minutes of just sitting in the sun. And like I said, it's not even super hot today, right? It's in the 80s. It's a fairly mild day for July here for this time of summer here in Utah. But it's definitely 10 degrees cooler in the Shiftpod, and I'm pretty impressed. We'll give it a few more minutes and we'll see if we have any other differences. Okay, we're gonna do temperature test number 2. It's been about 10 more minutes of just letting everything just sit in the hot sun. So again, we're in the 80s right now, but as we know, sitting in the hot sun, that makes things a lot hotter. So here's our baseline temperature, and as I take a look at this, it's still right around 100, but it's peaked just over. So I would put that close to 105, just sitting out in the hot sun. So let's take a look at our Shiftpod. Follow me this way. Beautiful. We'll Velcro that open, and I'm gonna go ahead and step inside. In here, we're still looking at that same 90 degrees. So that's really good. It's held firm even though it's gone a little bit higher outside. Awesome. Now, let's test the Coleman Two-Man. Again, this is your standard dome tent. Nothing special about this one. Just nice and easy to set up. I did put the rain fly on though, so there'd be the same amount of shade. So we're not quite at 100. So it's still a little bit cooler, but not as cool as the Shiftpod. So the Shiftpod actually has made things cooler just by reflecting away some of that energy. We'll do a few more. I'm gonna wait till we have another 100-degree day here in Utah, and then we're gonna do the same test. But for right now, it definitely looks like it makes a difference. So overall, guys, let's talk about what this is and what this is not. I see this as having some amazing potential for being a 4-season shelter, to be honest with you. I do believe this is going to handle snow, handle wind if you guy it out properly, rain, all of that. I think that's going to be not a problem for this. I think it's going to be a nice base camp option. So again, if you're going to an event out in the desert, perfect. That's what it was designed for. If you're taking this camping with you and maybe one other individual, I do think it's going to be perfect for car camping because, again, it's not going to be the lightest shelter out there, but for just tossing into the trunk of a car, for an easy, quick setup, and you've got your base camp and then comforts and luxuries while you're inside, definitely a plus, okay? The downside to that is when you compare this to some of the real simple Colemans out there, the cheap stuff that you can find at any big box store, this is going to be quite a bit more, right? This is a specialized shelter. You're looking at the range of about $700 to $800 out of the door. I know right now on their website they do have a sale going on where you can pick these up for, I believe, under $600, which I think is a good deal, again, depending on what you want to do with it. Like I said, it's got potential. I like the features. I love the sod skirt. I love the zip-in floors, and I think it's well put together. I can definitely see this thing lasting a long time. I don't have any concerns with the build or the craftsmanship, so I can recommend it there. But again, the only hesitation I would have in recommending would be the price and would be the bulk. But depending on what you're going to do with it, this might be the perfect shelter in terms of getting out into the desert. If you're in any kind of desert climate, this is probably going to be the shelter for you. Just to kind of, like I said, having the bed of your truck, having the trunk of your car, just grab and go for a weekend, and you're going to be comfortable. You're going to be living very, very nice in this thing. So definitely that's the justification for that cost that you're paying. All in all, I think it's a cool shelter. I think it's definitely worth checking out. And I'm excited to take this out and run it through its paces in an actual camping environment. But, you know, first of all, I wanted to give you guys an initial review and just give you my initial thoughts and impressions. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you think this is an innovative shelter, or if you think that this could be beneficial to you in some way, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And then again, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.